Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk what a typical day was like for me when I was in the midst of opiate addiction and how I got out. I talk a lot about alcohol on the channel and obviously from early age I had issues around alcohol. But opiates never came into my life until my 40s and they took everything from me, to put it bluntly, in the quickest amount of time that possible. Yeah, I mean, alcohol eventually takes everything from you. There's no doubt about that, as do other drugs. And eventually alcohol will come back for your health and kill you. There's no doubt about that either. The thing about opiates is everything happens much quicker and rips your soul away from you at an alarming rate. The reason I'm talking about this, because people say, I haven't taken opiates, thank goodness, for quite a long time now. Found my way out of that hell. So why do I need to think about it and remind myself about it? And I'll tell you why quickly before I tell you about a day in the life. I never forget what it was like for me in opiate addiction. And I'll never forget the hell I was in and how close I came to ending my own life and how I ruined the lives for a period of time of the people I loved most, my own life, the devastation that it wrought, and all of that. And the horror and how I felt every single day. I never want to forget that because it's convenient. The brain has a way of telling you you're okay. It's like with alcohol, if you've been sober for quite a long period of time, the brain will try and trick you into thinking, it's okay now and again. Now you've sorted it out. Now you've stopped for a long time. You can have a quick, and we all know where that will end up, because if you have issues around addiction, moderation is not a thing that you can do. I certainly not me anyway. So within days, I'm in a worse state that I was before I stopped. It's an incredibly quick process and it's a progressive thing, any addiction. So I always like to remind myself, not dwell on it. I'm not dwell in regret, because that's a useless thing. I prefer to prove to the people I love and care about and to myself, by being the best I can be now. That's my way of apology, if you like, being the best I can be now, because that's all I can do. And so I remind myself, because I never want to go back to that hell. I sometimes replay what a day was like in my head, because if my brain's trying to tell me you're okay now, then I very quickly tell it that I'm not. I don't negotiate with it, because you can't. It's a dangerous illness that will take you and everything that you have. So for me, I'd always drank for many years. I didn't think I was an alcoholic at that point, but I was, looking back on it now. Although, it hadn't become I was running a big business and successfully. I had everything in my life materially that I wanted, a beautiful, loving family. Everything from the outside looking in was amazing, no doubt about it. And yet here I was, with, they call it a hole in the soul, don't they? Or a spiritual malady, if you like. A feeling of never being satisfied, restless, irritable and discontent with everything, always wanting more, always feeling there was something missing. And always I suffered, even though I was very successful in those days, suffered from massive social anxiety, massive shyness, feeling of lack of self-worth, not thinking much of myself at all, couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. All of that, I think, came, and worry and fear around everything. But I disguised that, alcohol disguised that for a long period of time, When I was 40, I went to the doctors and it was a chance encounter with opiates. I'd genuinely hurt my back at work, and it was the 90s, and they were prescribing stuff just like those of you watching America will know around Oxycontin. I think that may have come a bit later, but doctors, there was no issues around what they prescribed in those days. You know, it was like no questions asked, if you like. But anyway, she prescribed me, and I didn't think anything of it. Just codeine, and it was a 30 milligram tablet, nothing else in it, just codeine, which for someone who'd never taken opiates before, that's quite a strong dose. And immediately I took them, everything. I can't describe what it was like, but those of you who've been in opiate addiction will know. It was like being wrapped up in warm cotton wool. All of that stuff I talked about, the hole in the soul, the restlessness, all of that shit disappeared from my life. I felt confident, everything was okay. The worry and the fear melted away. I felt safe, warm, comfortable. It was a magical feeling. And then you go on to try and replicate that feeling and get that first high, which you never ever do. Like with any drug, you'll never achieve that again. You take more and more and more. You become physically dependent on it in a very short space of time. And then the nightmare starts, basically. So I started manipulating the doctor. And like I say, they prescribed quite easily. I just lied about the pain in my back, which had gone by that time. Eventually got up to morphine sulfate tablets. The strongest, I think it might have been 25 milligram or 30 milligram morphine sulfate. I was eating them like sweets. Lucky to be alive, really, the amount I was taking. And then they got wise to it. And to cut a long story short, the prescribing stopped and I had to go on the hunt. So I was buying street drugs then, mixing in circles that I never wanted to mix in. And the lying and the cheating and the dishonesty. It ripped every bit of honesty out of me. All my morals disappeared. I became selfish. I became a thief, a liar, a cheat. I would have sold my children for a drug. You know, that's how, I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's how desperate I was sometimes. When I couldn't get street drugs, I was buying what they call Nurofen Plus in the UK, 12.8 milligram of codeine in each tablet, but ibuprofen as well, taking massive quantities. In the pharmacies in the UK at that time, they'd keep an eye out for people buying these because you become addicted in 3 days. They would warn you. I got banned from nearly every pharmacy in the area. I would spend 2 hours of my morning driving round, desperate for to buy these Nurofen just to keep me at a level, not even to get high. Forget that now, because now it's become about just avoiding withdrawal. And when I can't get street drugs, and because I was smoking heroin at one stage, then I was eating industrial quantities of these Nurofen. How it didn't kill me, but I was sick in the stomach, vomiting blood and stuff like that with the ibuprofen quantities I was taking, just to get the codeine in. Desperation, and even at that time, and this is the early days of my addictions, it got worse than that. So when I came to Spain, because there were periods where I managed to stop. There are videos on this channel, by the way, and I'll talk about recovery in a minute, but there are videos on opiate withdrawal, how to get through it as comfortably as possible, to plan it. It is one of the most difficult things you'll do, but one of the most worthwhile things you'll ever do in your life, no doubt about that. When I came to Spain, tramadol was sold over the counter, and an insidious opiate. I've got videos on the channel about tramadol. Not only is it a synthetic opiate, it's strong, it has antidepressants in it as well. So it's like a double whammy. And very quickly became dependent on those. So I'll tell you what a day in my life was like when I was at my worst, if you like. So there'd be no sleep really. You'd sort of doze off, nod, what they call it nodding with opiates, where you're taking a quantity where you just sort of nod. Wake up with a shock a couple of hours later. There wasn't any real sleep or anything like that. A feeling of absolute, they call it dysmorphia, I think, or something like that, where you feel as though it's the end of the world. Real fear. Have you got something to take now that's staving this withdrawal that's coming on? Because you'll wake up, be sweating, feeling sick, vomiting, pains everywhere. Your legs will be twitching. That's just the start of it. A feeling of absolute doom, so much anxiety that you're overwhelmed by it. And that's just the beginning of opiate withdrawal. And have you got any pills there to take? Opiate addiction, like any addiction, but opiate in particular, is exhausting. Every waking moment of your day, and probably sleeping, what you get is filled with how to get the drug inside of you, where to get the drug from, and how to get the money for it. Nothing else matters. You stop communicating with people. When I wasn't out looking for it or trying to borrow money to get it, I was locked in my room debating whether to kill myself or not on a daily basis. And I thought, well, I'm killing myself for the drugs, so it doesn't really matter. It just ripped every bit of dignity, self-respect, self-care. I stopped washing. I stopped shaving. I stopped eating food. Forget food, because every penny. And I stole money, and I begged and borrowed money, and I manipulated money. But every bit of money that I had coming in was spent on my addiction, not food. If I did eat food, it would just be junk, and that would be the last thing on my priority for the day. So that would be how my day would be going, and inevitably I'd think I'd got enough to last me. And then it would get into mid-afternoon, and I'd start to panic and look at the amount, and then I'd realise I'd taken more than I'd planned to take, because that always happened every day. And I hadn't got enough to get me through the night. And then the fear again would rise, and the anxiety inside of me. I would have to, and I'd be running to the toilet, vomiting, literally feeling numb and with fear and anxiety, wondering how I was going to get out again, how I was going to get the money again. And I'd rotate money that I borrowed off people, when I'd run out of money from my pensions. It was a living hell every single day, locked in my room when I wasn't out, trying to do what I was doing, grifting, grafting, lying, cheating, manipulating. I stopped phoning my family, my friends, stopped communicating with anybody. Life was a nightmare and a living hell. And that's why I remind myself every day what that was like. And then a decision comes where you realise what the intervention, there was no real, it was just a case of me one day deciding that how selfish I was being, if you like, and that I wanted to live, because I was debating that day whether to finish it, and I had enough pills to do that. And I just said, I remember looking up, it's a distant memory now, thank God, and asking for help, divine help, not necessarily religious or anything like that, but spiritual, because I had I had no spirituality in my life at all. And I just said, to put it bluntly, for fuck's sake, please help me. And from somewhere came some strength, and I started to look around online for people who were struggling with opiate addiction, how they'd come off. I started to research. All the time I was still taking because I had to, because I was scared to go into withdrawal. The fear around going into withdrawal for an opiate addict is immense, and it stops you going through that stage many times. But I did all the research I could do. I looked at all the videos and the inspiration I could look at, and then I asked for help. And then I told my family and asked for help from them as well, and support around me here. Thank God I did that. And then I prepared and I planned the dates I was going to do that. I didn't reduce. That was just my choice. Some people choose to do that. I knew I couldn't reduce because I knew that if I had the pills there, I would take them. So it had to be a clean break for me with opiates. I had to go through the pain, and that's not me being brave, or that's just a fact for me. It was the only way I could do it. So I got everything in I needed, and look at my videos for what I did to do that. Prepared, got myself mentally ready, took my last pills. The next day was the day I would go in, and I fought for my life for those 7 days of hell that I went through. I mean, it went on for a lot longer than, and I had pause, and there are videos on that as well. But after those 7 days, of hell. Things started very slowly. It's just one small step at a time to get stronger, one foot in front of the other, little things. I started to wash again. I started to have a shave. I started to do my teeth, make my bed in the mornings. Tiny little baby steps every single day. And slowly but surely, and started to eat a nourishing diet. The money started to, financially, obviously, I was better off without the opiates. So I started to buy healthier food. Light exercise, getting out and walking in the fresh air. It just went slowly. And by 3 months in, I was beginning to start feeling myself again. And the mental cloud started to disappear. And the anxiety slowed down and the depression slowed down. And you can do that. And that's the reason I made this video today, to give hope to those of you out there who are still in addiction, going through withdrawal, whatever it is. Because you can do it. There's no doubt about it. With the right planning and the right preparation, and with support and help, and with the right information, and knowledge is power, getting that knowledge behind you, then you can do it. And you can get this shit and this nightmare out of your life and start to live life again on life's terms and enjoy life again, because I love my life now. And I could never have imagined that when I was in opiate addiction, loving life. But I do love every moment of my life, and you can again as well. So stay strong, my friends. Keep fighting. Never give up. Because even if you fail, you can learn and try again. Learn and try again. That's what I did many times, till eventually I got there. And you can get there as well. So carpe diem. Please subscribe. Please click the Ko-fi link and give the channel some support if you want to. Much love to you all. See you again next time. Bye-bye.